The Premier League season starts this week, so that means it's time for our pre-season predictions. And I don't know about you guys, but I found this one really hard. I think there's a lot of quality in these sides, and I think there's not much to separate them. I want to hear from you guys in the comments below. How did you find it this one? I find it quite difficult, but I think I have decided on my 1 to 20, and here it is. I'm going to start off with the relegation places, and it's a tough one because 2 seasons ago, all 3 newly promoted sides in Fulham, Bournemouth, and Nottingham Forest stayed up in the Premier League. And of course, last season, all 3 newly promoted sides in Burnley, Luton Town, and Sheffield United all went down. So what's going to happen this year? Well, to start off with, in 20 players, I have got a newly promoted side. I've got Southampton. And the main reason that I've got Southampton in last is I really honestly just think they lack the quality to be a Premier League side. I think they conceded way too many goals last season, 63 in the Championship. And I think going into this season, they're going to struggle again. Their first choice goalkeeper in Gavin Bazunu is out injured until the new year. They got Alex McCarthy in goal, as we all know him very well. But is he really the Premier League quality at his age? I don't think so. And they've tried to reinforce the defence. They signed Howe on a permanent from Manchester City, who was on loan at them last season and did fantastically well. They've also signed Edwards from Peterborough and Wood from Swansea City. They're 2 young centre-backs. I think we're really playing a main part of the season ahead. I don't think so. They also signed Sugawara from AZ Alkmaar, who I think is a fantastic right back, but I think he's more of an attacking one than a defensive one, and he might struggle. They've also tried to sign Wellington from Sao Paulo in the Brazilian league, as well as Charlie Taylor on loan on a free transfer from Burnley. So yes, reinforcements, but are they the real quality that they need? I'm not quite sure. I'm really looking forward to seeing Kyle Walker-Peters though. I think he is definitely a Premier League right back and can also play a left back as well, and I think he's going to be crucial for them going forward and in defence. The Saints have also re-signed Flynn Downs from his loan from West Ham and made that into permanent. I think that's going to be crucial for them going forward. I think he's really going to be crucial for them in the midfield. They've also re-signed Adam Lallana, who's previously at the club, but at his age, again, is he another one where I think he's going to make much of a difference. Experience-wise, maybe, but on the pitch, probably not. And in the attack, I think they really lack the real front man to get some goals for them. They let go of Shea Adams, who got 18 goals in more competitions last season. They got Adam Armstrong, who scored 24 goals in the Championship. However, in his last 2 seasons in the Premier League, he scored 2 goals 2 years ago and 2 goals the season before that as well. Is that enough? I'm not quite sure. I think they need some reinforcements, and they have gone to try to sign Ben Brereton Diaz, who got 6 goals in 14 appearances for Sheffield United on loan in the second half of last season. Is that going to be enough if you place the entirety of the season? Maybe, but I think they do need some help elsewhere. Obviously, they got Suleimana, the really talented winger. Is going to be enough between the players that they have? I don't think so. For me, I think there's a squad which has some decent players, but really they lack Premier League quality and they're going to get exposed a lot. So for me, 20th place for Southampton. And in 19th place, I've actually gone for Leicester City as well. I know a lot of people have them staying up or maybe going a bit higher up in the table because of the previous Premier League experience, and they probably were unexpected to go down 2 seasons ago. But obviously, they've lost their manager, Enzo Maresca, to Chelsea. And I don't think that actually that's the end of the world, just because of the fact that, yes, he was going to play a possession style of football at Leicester. He maybe didn't have the quality of players to implement it to a high standard, and maybe it's one where he's probably better off going to Chelsea, and probably would have stuck in his ways, played the same way. And when they were losing games and the results weren't going the way, he probably wouldn't change. And I think probably Steve Cooper coming in is a bit more practical, he's a bit more of an honest man, and he's going to get that side really working for the fans and, you know, giving their best. And I think that's something the Leicester fans can really get behind. Obviously, not only Maresca, they also lost their key talisman in midfield, Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, who went to Chelsea as well. Obviously got 12 goals and 14 assists in the Championship last year, which really helped them propel themselves into first. Was he going to get the same amount this season? I don't think so. He's probably going to get a bit less, but now they've lost that as well. That's going to be a bit of an issue. They've also lost Kelechi Iheanacho, who got 5 goals and 1 assist on the free transfer. They've also let go of some experience with Dennis Pratt, Mark Albrighton, who were Premier League experienced players and new in the league. They've also let Harry Suter go on loan to Sheffield United as well. He's not too much of a miss, but I think all in all, there's a lot of players which, you know, they could have really helped Leicester out this season. They have brought in some players though. Leicester, it hasn't just been completely outgoing. They have brought in Bobby Decordova-Reid, Michael Golding, who again is a young player from Chelsea, Caleb Okulu, who I'm really excited to see, and obviously making Fatoua's loan move to a permanent this season. And I think they have some quality players, but obviously we've got to talk about the financial fair play and the PSR issues looming over Leicester. There's rumours that it might be up to 10 points or even more than that. And I think that, as well as losing your main midfield man and not sure being able to how much you're going to spend this season, I really think for me that I think Leicester with the points penalty, despite the manager Steve Cooper, who I think would do a decent job, despite the fact that they have some Premier League quality players, especially like the Jamie Vardy, but they are turning a bit older now, and most of the better players that are really exciting are quite young and inexperienced. So for me, I've got Leicester City in 19th place. And unfortunately, in 18th place, I've got Ipswich Town. So I've got a clean sweep. I've got all 3 newly promoted sides going down. And honestly, before I get into Ipswich and the reason why I think they're going to go down, I don't wish all 3 newly promoted sides to go down. I don't think it's healthy for the league or the English football pyramid as a whole, but I just can't see it. I think Ipswich did a fantastic job getting second last season. Were they going to buckle under the pressure of promotion? Were Leeds going to get it? They didn't. They held their own under Kieran McKenna, and I think it actually actually showed everyone that what a quality side they are. Yes, 2 back-to-back promotions is exciting. However, I think it is going to catch up to them. And I think, if we're being honest, they've got some League One players in this squad who probably aren't ready to play in the Premier League. But what can you do when you go back to promotions? You can't change the entire side, and really financially it's too much to change the entire side, and I don't think they can do that. However, I think Ipswich have recruited really well. Obviously, they signed Omari Hutchinson on a permanent deal from Chelsea, got 10 goals and 5 assists for them last season, did really well. They've also signed Jacob Greaves from Hull City, who's one of the best centre-backs in the league last year. Liam Delap from Manchester City, who was on loan at Hull last season. He only got 8 goals and 2 assists, so I think he's a very promising player, but is he going to get you enough goals? I'm not quite sure. And obviously, for me, Erik from Burnley, the goalkeeper, he had one of the best save percentages in the entire league when he did play last year, 80.8%. That was the best of any goalkeeper who played 10 games or more. And I think he's going to really be a crucial part of Ipswich staying up, because they're going to play an attacking style of football. But I think McKenna will also adapt to the Premier League, which is why I've got them in 18th and not further down, because I think McKenna will be smart. He has been linked with like the Chelsea, Man United, and that's for a reason. I think Ipswich will make a fight of it. They'll be a bit like Luton Town last season. However, for me, again, I think the quality of the Premier League, you say you think one of the new Premier League may stay up, but then you say which one of them are going to go down, and that's the issue. And I think the quality of the other teams are just too much. So unfortunately, I've got Ipswich in 18th, and I can't help it. And in 17th place, just avoiding the relegation zone, I've got them exactly where they were last season. I've got Nottingham Forest. And this is a tough one, because if there were to be a Premier League side which I think could go down next season, I think it is probably Nottingham Forest. And I'm not sure it's based on the quality of the players. I just think there's something unpredictable on Nottingham Forest which sometimes could lead them to being in a bit of danger. We wouldn't even survive the entire of the season. I don't think so. But if he were, I think he would do a decent job and keep him up. And really, that's where the Nottingham Forest need to be. Because if you take away the points deductions from last season, they would actually be on 36 points, 10 points clear of the team in 18th place last season, which was Luton Town, and the table will look a lot better. So I think with the quality Nottingham Forest have, they should be fine. I mean, there are a lot of players go, and they really need to. They're really slimming down the squad. They let Ribéry, Origi, Montiel, Tavares, Reina all leave on loan, who were at the club last season. They've also had Felipe, the Brazilian centre-back, who's retired. They've also let go on a free Wayne Hennessy, Harriata, Cheka Kouyaté, Loic So, and Scott McKenna. They also sold Nyakate, Mangala, Freuler, Aguilera to help with the PSR issues, and also the fact that they weren't really starters anymore for the squad and they could get some money for them. So they've really trimmed that squad down, and that's actually, I think, where Nottingham Forest need to be, selling a lot of these players to be able to bring in quality. And the players that are brought in, I mean, of note, Elliot Anderson from Newcastle, I think he's a fantastic player. Nikola Milenkovic from Fiorentina for £12 million. That is an absolute bargain and a steal, especially considering all the centre-backs Nottingham Forest have let go. And of course, Jota Silva to help out in the attacking areas as well. So when you think about it, it's going to be Chris Wood or Taiwo Awoniyi up top. They could maybe get you some goals. They probably need one more striker, especially because the amount of big chances Chris Wood missed at the end of the season in crucial games where, if the relegation race was a bit tighter, it could have been crucial, and it could have been the difference between them staying up and going down. But I also think when you think about the three behind, you've got Hudson-Odoi, Anthony Elanga, you've got Jota Silva now to play on the wing as well. And in the number 10 position, you've got Morgan Gibbs-White and Anderson. I think they've got some really good attacking players and enough goals between them to really keep them up. And I think in the defence, they've got a defence which can be leaky at times and probably will be okay though, just because I think Sells is a decent goalkeeper, Belgian number 1, if it wasn't for Courtois being injured, and also the fact that some of the defenders in front of them, like I said, Milenkovic, and I think they've got some good fullbacks as well. I think Nottingham Forest will be fine as long as they sort out their defensive set pieces. They conceded 22 last season, the most of any team in the Premier League. As long as they cut down on that, I think they should be fine in 17th. In 16th place, I've actually gone for Fulham, and this might seem a bit low for them. However, I don't actually think that Nottingham Forest and Fulham are going to be in a relegation race this season. I think it's just based on the positioning, and I think the teams above them are a bit more quality. If you think about who Fulham have sold already, they sold João Palhinha to Bayern Munich for £47.5 million, which is going to be a massive blow in their midfield. They've also let go of Bobby Decordova-Reid, who's joined Leicester City, as we mentioned, as well as Willian, who's a bit in and out about if he's going to sign a new contract, as well as Tosin Adrabai, who left on the free to Chelsea. Those are 4 players who played a lot of minutes for them last season and are crucial parts of Marcus Silva's first team. And when you think about the players that they brought in, I think Ryan Sessegnon returning to the club is a fantastic signing, can cover both Anthony Robinson and play a bit further forward as well. You also think about Emma Smith-Rowe for £27 million when the club record signing could rise up to 34. I think he's a very talented player. However, with his injury issues, it is a bit of a flip of a coin. You could say 3 seasons ago, 33 times he played, got 10 goals and 2 assists. However, in the last 2 seasons, he's only played 25 times. Those, not all of them were starts either. He's got no goals and 3 assists. So Hopefully he can stay fit, and hopefully, you can get the Emil Smith Rowe, that one that can really propel you higher up in the league. But we're going to have to wait and see, and you can't put too much pressure on him just yet. Apart from that, Fulham have also bought Cunha from Villarreal for £5.4 million. Yes, he looks like a decent signing, but they need a bit more defensive cover. They bought the link to Diego Carlos at the moment. Whether that deal is going to go ahead or not, we're going to have to wait and see. But I think the main thing that what they really need to do is find that João Palhinha replacement. Who that's going to be, I'm not quite sure yet. They haven't been linked with too many names. I think Sakalušić is okay, and I probably think he looks better than he is when he's playing alongside a player of the quality of João Palhinha. Is he ready to take that mantle on his own? I'm not quite sure. I'm going to have to see it from this season. However, when you also think about the goals that Fulham need to score, Rodrigo Mini scoring 9 goals towards the back end of last season was, incredibly unexpected. But is he going to do it again? He's still only 22, 23 years of age, so that's going to be wait and see. And Raul Jimenez isn't getting any younger either. But the reason why I don't have Fulham anywhere near a relegation race for me is because of the manager, Marco Silva. I think he's a quality Premier League manager. He's proven it over the years with the likes of Hull, Everton, Watford. I think Fulham are in safe hands with him. Just splash the cash, because I think Fulham could be a lot higher up in the table if it were. In 15th place for me, I've got to have Wolverhampton Wanderers with Gary O'Neill. And they've sold 2 big players so far this season. They sold Max Gilman to West Ham for 40 million, and they sold Pedro Neto to Chelsea for 54 million. And, if we're being honest, Max Gilman for 40 million... Yes, he's a fantastic player. He played every single minute for Wolves last season. But 40 million seems, a bit steep if I'm being completely honest. I think maybe Max is maybe around £30 million. So the fact that Wolves got 40 million, I think you definitely take that. And also Pedro Neto, while he's going to be a massive miss, he got 2 goals and 9 assists last season. But he only played in 20 matches. And when you have one of your best players, you really want them to be fit for the entirety of the season. So for a player who only plays half your games, when he does play, does really well, but to get 50 plus million for him, I don't think it's the end of the road. Yes, it's going to be a miss, because to replace him is going to be hard. But I think with the money coming in, getting almost £100 million for those 2 players, I think that's pretty good business for Wolves, who, have been talks about, how much money can they spend, because, are they close to the line for PSR? And I think this money will really come in handy, and they have signed some players already. I mean, Jurgen Larsen on loan from Celta Vigo, the striker. I think he's going to be incredibly exciting, and was hoping to see the last season front three and him as well. It looks like it's not going to be without Neto, but he's going to come in and be incredibly exciting. They've also brought in Pedro Lima from Sport Recife in Brazilian Second League, as well as Tommy Doyle from Manchester City. And I think there are some decent signings. Rodrigo Gomez as well, the 20-year-old from Braga. So it's not too exciting at the moment, but I think there is going to be time for Wolves to make it more exciting. I think they will be spending a bit more money. Maybe another centre-back. I'm not sure if Santiago Bueno, as well as maybe Totti Gomez or Craig Dawson. I'm not sure what defensive partnership is going to be at the back, but I definitely think they need a few more reinforcements, which I think they will. But I think the Wolves are going to be fine. They're going to be 15th. And in 14th place for me, I've got Brentford. I think last season was a massive underperformance, and the fact that they were even in and around the relegation zone was a bit of a disservice, because I think they're a lot better side than they showed last season, and I think they're going to show it this year. They've obviously signed Igor Thiago from Club Brugge for a club record £30 million, and he got 18 goals and 3 assists last season. And I think he's coming in mainly as the Ivan Toney replacement, who, funny enough, is actually still at the club. So what's going to happen with him is going to be a little bit uncertain. I think as of today of recording, I saw some links with him with the Saudi Pro League. I'm not sure that's going to happen or not, but if Brentford can get the money, I mean, they'll absolutely sell him to whoever. But I think Brentford are a funny old club, because you don't write them off. Thomas Frank will get the side working incredibly hard, but they are continuously undercutting their squad with the amount of quality. They've been linked with the likes of Fabio Carvalho. That looks like that's going to happen, but are they going to sign any more? I think it depends on if Ivan Toney goes or not, because I can't see Brentford, the smart club that they are, will wanted to keep him and let his contract run down and go for a free. Obviously, they were heavily injured hampered through injuries last season. Both of their wing backs got out injured, and I think before the injuries really hit, we were about to see Brentford play with 4 at the back, a bit more attacking football. That didn't quite materialise. And obviously in January, they were one of the sides who lost most of their players to AFCON more than any of the Premier League sides. So I think Brentford, just a solid 14th place in the Premier League next season, making some improvements and, building a squad that can compete a bit higher up again. In 13th place for me, I've got Bournemouth, and initially I had them a little bit higher up. However, with the news that Dominic Solanke is going to be signing for Tottenham Hotspur, I've got to keep him, in 13 and actually brought them down a couple of places, because last season, Bournemouth scored in the league 54 goals, and Dominic Solanke got 19 goals and 3 assists. That's 22 goal involvements out of those 54, which is 40.7. And to take that player in his prime out of that team, that is a lot of goals, and that is a lot of goal involvements for Bournemouth to be missing. And I think that's probably going to be what's going to hamper Iraola and his side. I think they'll be absolutely fine. I think Iraola is a fantastic manager. We probably didn't give him the praise he deserved when he initially came in, because we thought Gary Neville did such a fantastic job, which he did. But I think what we didn't realize was the level that Ariella could take the side and the way they could play football. So because of that, I think they'll be fine, completely, away from relegation. The one is just Dominic Solanke, how they're going to replace him. Of course, they made Luis Sinistero a permanent from Leeds, and Enes Unal from Getafe a permanent deal as well. They also signed the young promising centre-back Dean Hodgson from Juventus, and Alex Paulson, the goalkeeper from Wellington, and obviously Daniel Jebinson on a free transfer from Sheffield United. They will have to replace Dominic Solanke, because that is the big one. Who they're going to bring in, I'm not really sure. But not only that, because let's not overshadow just that. Obviously, they've lost Lloyd Kelly on a free transfer to Newcastle. He was also a big player. Probably didn't play as many minutes, but he was quality. He was Premier League quality. He could play left back and left centre back as well. So he's going to be a miss. And I do think that Bournemouth may definitely need to replace Dominic Solanke, but they can't be over-reliant on just one person. Other players are going to just step up. I think Kluivert's going to have to step up as well. It's a big season for Alex Goddard, who got injured last year. So I think Bournemouth will be fine, but there are signs that if the transfers don't quite work out, that they could be further down the table as well. In 12th position, for me, I've got Everton, and you might think that might be a bit high based on the performances last season. However, when you think about it, Everton, if it wasn't for the point deduction, would have been in 12th place last season themselves. They would have got 8 more points. And I think one of the big things why I got them still 12th this year is because they had a massive underperformance of their XG. Depending on what website you look at, it could be anywhere between 15 and 20, which is absolutely massive. So you might think, why have I got them that high up? Because, well, you can partially count maybe 2 or 3 of that XG to be for luck. Okay, maybe that. Then what about the rest of it? Well, I think they have tried to bring in some players to maybe change that a little bit. Obviously, they brought in Iliman Ndiaye from Marseille. They brought in Jesper Lundstrom from Napoli. However, neither of them had prolific goal-scoring campaigns last season. That's why they're probably at a club like Everton, because they need to revitalize their careers. But I think there's no way, surely there is no way that Everton are going to underperform their actually that much. I mean, obviously they sold Amadou Onana to Aston Villa, which is going to be a blow, but was he playing week in, week out for them? No. Yes, he played a lot of minutes and matches, but I think they'll probably be fine. They brought in Tim Irabunum from Aston Villa, who I think is a very promising midfield player as well, who's going to develop under Sean Dyche. They've still kept a hold of Jared Brantwaite, and I think that Everton probably will do, and I think he's probably going to be leaving, if he is going to leave, next summer rather than this summer. They've also brought in O'Brien from Lyon, who I think was previously at Crystal Palace. He's going to be back up, get used to how Sean Dyche wants him to play, and eventually to probably take over for Brantwaite. But for me, I think Everton are a very well-drilled, well-coached side, and yeah, I just can't see it personally. I think they have a lot of quality, maybe not in the forward areas, but I think, one, they just cannot underperform their XG as much as they did last season. I think the players like Conte Cavalier and better, surely they can't have as bad a season as they have, because, it's just impossible really to underperform that badly. And for me, I think Sean Dyche will just get this Everton side coached really well, and I think they'll be 12th. And maybe you thought Everton was a bit high. Well, I think my next one is going to upset a few of you, and I'm sorry in advance. But in 11th place, I've actually gone for West Ham United. And truth be told, I think David Moyes was a fantastic manager for West Ham. The style of play got to a point where, he had to go really, just because it was so boring to watch. Even as a neutral, watching West Ham, trying to analyse them, I couldn't stand it anymore. However, I think the fact that Julian Lopetegui's come in, I think he's a good manager. However, he hasn't left the best reputation behind him as he left clubs previously, despite the fact that he managed some of the best clubs in world football with Real Madrid, Spain as well. I mean, we've also said he's got Premier League experience. But I just think that there's arguably too much change at West Ham, and I know that's mental to say, because bringing all these exciting players, and there are really exciting players like Max Kilman, Crescencio Somerville, Lewis Guillemary, Nicholas Fulcro, Guidi Rodriguez, Wes Foderingham on a free, which is decent business, Jean-Claire Tobido, especially Aaron Wan-Bissaka as well, is rumoured to be coming in. So that is a lot of change, and they're all quality players. But for me, I just think it's too much change, because if I'm being completely honest, I don't really know what the West Ham way is. Is it giving it 100%? Is it playing attractive football? I don't know what it is. And so I think Lopetegui coming in will probably get better, not better results, but the team will be playing better and the performances will be better. But there is a lot of change going on, and all of a sudden you're going to ask all these players who coming from all over across the world to play in the team together very late on before the start of the season and gel together. It could be one where I get this completely wrong, but I think for me, it's going to take time for it to gel. So I think 11th place for me, and then next season, the one after, they're really going to go for West Ham. But yeah, unfortunately, for me, I've only got 11th place, and it's not based on the players or XG or stats or anything. It's just based on the fact that I think it's too much change. And in 10th place, I've gone for Brighton and Hove Albion. And this was a really tough one for me because I think they had a bit of an underachievement last season. I think the first half of the season went really well, but ever since that Europa League defeat to Roma, things kind of fell off a cliff really in terms of performances and results for Brighton. And also the manager Roberto De Zerbi got linked with the move away. Subsequently, he left at the end of the season and now joined Marseille. And I think they've got some really good players, some players who could be competing at the highest level in the Champions League football. And they've got some players who are very young, but they're quite have that experience and know-how of the Premier League just yet. And also with new manager Fabian Hurlitzer, who was at FC St. Pauli in Bundesliga 2 last season, got them promoted. I think it's a very bold movement for Brighton hierarchy to do, and I think it's one where it could work out, it couldn't. But I'm optimistic about Brighton, but not so much that I'm willing to put them higher up in the table and give them maybe European football next season, but just enough where I think it's going to be a bit of a transition. Because if you think about the players that they lost in the last couple of years, their whole midfield, has a bit of a revamp. Because 2 seasons ago they lost Alexis McAllister and Moses Caicedo. This season they lost Pascal Gross and probably going to lose Billy Gilmore as well. And Pascal Gross, one of the most underrated players in the Premier League the last couple of years. I think he's third for creating shock-creating actions while his time at Brighton, and I think it's one where they brought in some really good players, likes of Minter from Newcastle. I think is going to be a quality player for them. Mats Viver from Feyenoord is probably one of the best defensive midfielders on the market. And Brighton getting him, I think, is a coup. Also the likes of Malik Yaku from the Swedish league. I really like him. He's only 18 years of age, but I think him in that Brighton material is going to be really good, as well as Ibrahim Osman from the Danish Super League. So they brought some exciting players, but I really do think what they really need to focus on is getting the players that were out injured last year back fit, because the likes of Solly Marshall and Jerome Matoma, they were just injured for the majority of the season, really weren't able to work their way into the side. And I think them being fit, along with the quality players that we know that Brighton do have, I think 10 plays isn't the worst case scenario for Brighton. I think it's one that I think the fans will probably take it. But sorry, Brighton fans, you might be happy with that. But in 9th place, I've got your rivals, Crystal Palace. And again, this is another tough one. And I think these places between kind of 12th and 8th have been quite hard for me, because are these sides which are going to be kicking on and getting into Europe, or are they sides which they don't quite have enough and are just going to be, middle of the table? And I think Crystal Palace is one of those where I was hoping maybe they were able to push on, especially after the end of the season that they had last year. I mean, the 13 matches that Oliver Glasner had, he had a win rate of 46%, which is really good. And when you consider that his overall managerial career in 382 games, his win percentage is 48%, that's good as well. Could they go further up into Europe and maybe do what Aston Villa and Unai Emery did last year? I don't think so. I think unfortunately they have been losing some of their key players at just the wrong time when they had an opportunity to maybe kick on. Obviously they lost Mikel Olise, he's gone to Bayern Munich, and obviously they've been heavily rumoured that Mark Gay, he might be joining Newcastle if Newcastle are willing to stump up the money. Yes, they brought in players who can really replace Mikel Olise, like the Daiji Kamada, who didn't have the best season last year at Lazio, and he's coming on a free transfer. But really want to be looking at is 2 seasons ago when he was at Eintracht Frankfurt, he got 9 goals and 6 assists. And I think him coming in, replacing Mikel Olise, now probably going to be in the first team as well. I think he's a very talented player, but at 28 years of age, he's not that exciting world-class talent that Mikel Olise could have potentially been. And as well, if you think about it, they've also brought in Ismail Assar, who got 3 goals and 4 assists at Marseille last season. Was okay, it was a good performance, not probably what Marseille was expecting as well. But when you think about in the 21-22 season when he was at Watford in the Championship, he got 10 goals and 7 assists. And in the 2021 season, he got 13 goals and 4 assists. So we can get somewhere near 15 goal returns this season. I think that'll be exactly what Crystal Palace are hoping for. And it's one where they might be in a situation where they're trying to play a bit more attractive football, which I think they definitely are based on what we saw with Roy Hodgson. And I think they're going to be one where they're going to be slowly progressing to the way forward up in the league, but it's not going to be too much of a jump, because I think, losing Elise, and if they were to lose Mike as well, it is going to be a bit of a miss. So in 8th place, I've gone for Chelsea, and I really don't know with Chelsea, because I think similar to Brighton, they could finish anywhere, and I think for Chelsea it could be anywhere between 12th and maybe 4th at being the very best, because they sacked Pochettino at the end of last season after Chelsea lost away to Arsenal 5-0, got battered. That was a bad game for them. But then they turned around and they really found some form. They sacked Pochettino because clearly he wasn't very happy with the decisions going on above him. Brought in Maresca, who's never managed in the Premier League. And Maresca has brought in Kieran Dewsbury-Hall and Pedro Neto, the 2 players who I think out of all the signings, and there's been a lot of signings as we all know, who could really make a difference. But is Pedro Neto going to be playing week in, week out? Don't think so, especially with his injury history and the fact that you've got Madueke and Cole Palmer on the right-hand side. Is Dewsbury-Hall any better than Conor Gallagher, who they're selling to Atletico Madrid? I'm not sure. Is Tosin, who's coming any better than Trevor Chalobah, who's been linked with the move away and been banned from Chelsea training? I don't think so. And so it feels like Chelsea are constantly undercutting the squad. And if anyone says they don't know what the owners want to do with Chelsea, I'd say it's very obvious what they want to do. They want to sell the best players and then bring in other younger players for cheaper and then sell them on again. So they're just about making money and it's not about the football. And I feel really sorry for Chelsea fans because I think this is not their club anymore. It's not recognizable in any way. And I think this is not a way to be competitive. But like I said, I think because of the quality of players that they do have, they could finish anywhere between 4th and 12th. They could even get up in the Champions League places, but I don't think they will. And they've also lost the experience of Thiago Silva, which I think is going to be huge as well. So Reece James is captain and Enzo Fernandez is vice captain. How much experience is that there? Really not as much. Yeah, I mean, I'll be just got Chelsea at 8. So now these remaining places between 7th and 3rd, I really struggle with because between 8th and 4th last year in the Premier League, there were only 8 points. And so any team who I put in 7th from here on in are probably not going to be happy with the fact they finished 7th. However, I think I am going to go for Tottenham Hotspur just because I think that they still at the moment really lack squad depth. I think when they had this first starting 11 starting, they did really well. I think the back four was really good, the midfield was okay at times, and the front line was, performing as well as they could. But I think Ange Postecoglou has talked a really good game, and he's always said that, it's not about finishing just 4th and getting the Champions League, it's about finishing first. And I think this season, prove it, if you're all talk, but, prove it you got on the pitch. And I think the Europa League football is really going to hamper them, and the fact that their players just cannot stay fit, the likes of Destiny Udogie, likes of Mickey van der Ven, I mean, the midfield they had was all over the place. I think the reinforcements of Archie Gray, Dominic Solanke, they're good recruitments to make. However, are they really going to help him when they got Europa League football as well to compete with? I'm not sure. I think they need a lot more depth especially. So I really do worry because I think if any of the teams from now 7th to 1st, if any of them were to finish 7th, I think they may be looking at underperforming a season and maybe sacking the manager. I don't want that because I like Ange, but he's got to prove it. He's got to improve, and I just don't see it personally for Spurs. So I've got Spurs in 7th, despite the fact that I think Dominic Solanke will improve him. I think Archie Gray will improve him. They might make some more defensive signings, which I think they need to, especially on that left-hand side for Doji or Mickey van der Ven. But yeah, I think it's going to be a bad season for Spurs, and maybe Ange is going to be a manager on the chopping block. And in 6th place, I have gone for Manchester United. And I know Man United fans, what you might be thinking, but we've signed Yoro, we signed Joshua Zirkzee, we were going to sign Matthijs de Ligt, as well as Mazraoui, and maybe defensive midfielder as well. Yes, that's all true. However, at the time of recording, Man United haven't signed any of those. And I think, most importantly, regardless of who Man United signed, the first priority for them is sorting out their injury record and the players who do get injured. Because at the time of recording, they've got out injured Rasmus Højlund, they've also got out Lenny Yoro, who's been out for 3 months despite just signing. Luke Shaw, Tyrone Malacia as well. Malacia, who we haven't seen since the beginning of last season, who knows where he is. There's also some injuries in midfield. And I just think, sort that out, because it doesn't matter who Man United bring in if they're always constantly injured. It doesn't help for continuity, it doesn't help to build up team chemistry. And I know they might have only just lost the Community Shield to Manchester City. However, are Man United going to be playing in that way every single game? They're not. They're going to, be on the front foot trying to break a team down. And I think that's where they really struggle, Man United. So I think I'm glad Erik got given a new contract for a new season. However, I do think that finishing 6th is not the end of the road. If Man United finish 6th this season, it's okay. If they finish 6th in 3 seasons' time under Ineos, then it's time to worry. Because I think the fact that Ten Hag got given a 2-year contract rather than any longer, it just goes to show that, you can't give a manager 1 year because you can't bring in any signings to, sell him the long-term project. But giving him 2 more years, you give him Ten Hag 1 more year to see how it goes, because he had 1 good season, 1 bad season. This is the season to show it. And I think with Europa League football and the amount of injuries Man United get, they'll constantly be getting players injured and they won't be able to put out their first team and get in any rhythm in the league, which is why I think they'll finish 6th. I mean, they've let go of Sofyan Amrabat, Brandon Williams, Anthony Martial, Amari Folson, Rafael Varane, Donny van de Beek, Alvaro Hernandez, Willy Campbell and Mason Greenwood. They need to bring in more signings. They've kept a hold of Jadon Sancho as well. Is he going to go? He's going to say, I'm not quite sure. But I think, Man United they will sign De Ligt and they'll sign Mazraoui. They need at least a midfielder. And I think they might have a chance of getting the top 4. But I think at the moment, I don't think they're going to get them defensive midfielder, because I'm not sure they're going to be able to ship out any players in midfield. I'm not sure who's going to want them. Maybe McTominay, maybe some of the others. I'm not quite sure. But for me, Man United, 6th place. And in fifth place, I've gone for Newcastle United, a side who probably underperformed last season in the league. I think a lot of injury issues as well, so I think that played a massive part. But in terms of the players that they let go Matt Ritchie, Kel Watts, Lewis Carris, Paul Dummett, Jeff Hendrick on a free, which I think are players who really weren't going to make a difference for them going forward and where they want to be in the league. They've also got Sandro Tonali back after his long suspension for betting. They've unfortunately sold Elliot Anderson to Nottingham Forest and Nkunku Minter to Brighton and Hove Albion. And I think because of PSR issues, they had to sell someone, and they decided to sell those two players, and they could get the money for them. But I think those are two players who would have really helped and been involved in the Newcastle squad going forward, and would have helped them get to where they need to be, especially Minter in the right wing position. I think I was earmarking him to improve that position with Almiron and Jacob Murphy being decent options, but probably not world class. I think Minter could probably be there. But in terms of incomings, they've also signed Lewis Hall and made that move a permanent from Chelsea. They've also brought in William Masula from Sheffield United, which is 15 million is okay, bit underwhelming if I'm being honest. And then obviously on the free transfer, Lloyd Kelly and John Ruddy. And I think Kelly will really come in and help reinforce, and probably won't be a starter, but good backup option as well. And I think for me, the reason why I've got Newcastle in fifth is because I think about 2 seasons ago when they did incredibly well. I think they got the players in the first starting 11 to do that again. I think they've bolstered some of the squad options, so I'd say probably their 15 is really good if they keep them fit. And I think they can't have as bad as injury issues that they had last season, because last year obviously they had 41 separate injuries. 20 individual players were injured, and in total they lost 1,950 days due to injury, which is the worst in the league. And I think they don't need the squad of Man United or Chelsea because they're not going to be in Europe. And I think if they did have a squad with quality players of that size, they might have done better last year as well. So I wouldn't write Newcastle off. I think Eddie Howe is also going to stay because I don't think he's going to get the England job. Lee Cardi got it on an interim basis. I think just for me, Eddie Howe needs to prove to Newcastle that last season wasn't 2 seasons ago wasn't a fluke when they got top four, and they could bring him back up there again. And I think if Newcastle were to get fifth, I think the Newcastle fans would be quite happy with that. Yes, they need to probably sign a right winger as well. I think. Are they going to do it? I'm not quite sure, but if they were to do it, it'd be great. Obviously, they've been linked with Mark Gay as well. Are they going to stump up the money? If they were to do that, and I think a return of Nick Pope in goal as well, I think the defence will be one of the best in the league. So I've got them in fifth, mainly because they don't have Europe, and I think without Europe, I think more of the players will be able to stay fit. I think Isak up front is going to be crucial for them. He's going to get 20 plus goals. I think Anthony Gordon is just going to be on the up and up and up. And I think Newcastle will do really well, so I've got them in fifth. So yeah, as you can probably tell, I've got last season's top four in the top four again. And the reason why I've gone for Aston Villa in the fourth is a lot of people forget that, last season they had Conference League football. They got to the semi-finals as well. So they went deep in the competition and still managed to get fourth in the Premier League as well. So yes, there's been 2 more extra games in the Champions League this season because of the new format. But I think the fact that they went deep in Europe last season, even though it wasn't a top flight European competition, and the fact that their manager is Unai Emery, who's experienced in Europe as well and managing the squad, I think they're going to get fine, and I think they're going to do a lot better than a lot of these other sides think. So I think for me, Aston Villa in fourth. Obviously, yes, you could say they've lost Moussa Diaby and Douglas Luiz. However, I think Moussa Diaby they're probably going to be fine with, because I think Leon Bailey really stepped up last season and did really well, and I think he's going to be the first choice right winger for them, as well as they brought in Philogen as well from Hull City, who was previously at Villa anyway. And I think when you think about the PSR issue, selling Diaby for 15 and Philogen for about 20 or 18, I think it was, that's a massive boost considering they're both going to be bench players anyway. And the fact that you brought in Amadou Onana, who I think has got all the raw potentials, because if you were trying to create your ideal central midfielder, I think Onana would be what you'd spit out, but I just don't think he's been imposing himself and playing like he can do, because I think he's absolutely got the potential to be world class as well. But when you think about the other signings as well, you've got the likes of Ian Matson, Cameron Archer, Samuel Ayling Jr. is going to be really exciting, Lewis Dobbin, Ross Barkley. I think Aston Villa probably have a deeper squad than they did last season as well. If you also think about it, they're looking for a right back, which I think they probably will sign as well. Maybe a centre back as well if Diego Carlos does move to the likes of Fulham or anywhere else. So I think Aston Villa under Emery are going to do a really good job next season. They're going to surprise a lot of people. And yes, it might be boring to predict last season's top four to finish in top four again, but I just don't think the other sides have improved that much, or are going to improve as much as they need to catch up to Aston Villa. So in third place, I've gone for Liverpool. And now that Jurgen Klopp's left, a lot of people might be looking at Liverpool as, a side that's probably weaker, not made any transfers at the time of recording. However, I do think that Liverpool will be signing a defensive midfielder. Will they be signing a centre-back that the fans are crying out for? I'm not sure. But I think the defensive midfielder is the one that's going to be key. They've been linked with the likes of Martin Zubimendi, and if that's going to happen, we're going to have to wait and see. But I think Maybe not. I can't really say. I'm 50-50 at the moment. But I think they will sign a defensive midfielder to play the way that Slob wants to play. But then also think about the players that let go. They let go of Thiago Alcantara, who's retired from football. Jean Matip has also left the club, and also Andres San Miguel, which is a third choice goalkeeper, which isn't really much of a news at all, really. But I think the reason why I think Liverpool will still be third is when you think about the difference between where they finished and where Aston Villa finished. 14 points is a lot. Is that swing gonna happen? Are Liverpool gonna drop 10 points and one of the teams below them gonna make 10 points up? I don't think so. I think that's a lot of points. I think the quality of the players that they have is gonna be, enough to get them to third place again in the league. Are they gonna be challenging? Not quite. I think there will be some teams who will, despite the fact that Liverpool have done well, I think there will be some teams in the Premier League who are like the Brighton, who might catch them out because they'll press really high, engage with them. And I think in pre-season where Liverpool have done well, they haven't really come up against those sides. So I think Liverpool will finish third. I think, Mo Salah will be back in the goals. I think the front line will get them out of so many goals. I mean, Jota as well, Luis Diaz, Darwin Núñez, Cody Gakpo. I think whoever the midfielder who ends up playing in the 10 for the Lana slot system in the 4-2-3-1, I think whether it's Harvey Elliott, Dominic Szoboszlai, Alex McAllister, whoever it may be, I think they will also pitch in with some goals as well. And I think they still got the best goalkeeper in the world football for me in Alisson Becker. They've still got one of the best centre backs in Premier League history in Virgil van Dijk. I think Robertson and Trent will be back to getting more goals and assists for the club as well. So I don't think they can suddenly drop off a cliff. I think they'll still be third. Will they get as many points as they did last year with 82? Maybe not. Maybe they'll be in the 70s, maybe mid to high 70s, but I don't see anyone else catching them up. And that's the thing for me, because they finished last season with so many more points than anyone else. I don't think the swing is going to make that much of a difference. So I think Liverpool are going to finish third. And so I still have last season's top two in the top two. But are Manchester going to finish first, or is it going to be Arsenal? And I've just got to say Arsenal are going to finish first and Manchester are going to finish second, just for a bit of variety. Why do I think Manchester City are going to finish second? Well, yes, obviously they lost Julian Alvarez. Is he going to be that much of a miss? I'm not quite sure. I mean, obviously he did get over 25 goal moments in the Premier League last season. However, there were times when he was substituting for Haaland, and they did play slightly differently in Manchester City. And when he was playing in the second striker or the cam or out on the wing, it just didn't seem to quite fit, despite the fact he played so many minutes. And so for me, I don't think Man City are going to go out and replace Julian Alvarez, because to try and replace him, I think it's going to be tough. I think they're going to try and use the squad that they have. But we know Haaland won't be fit for the entire 38 games, and that's when you can really miss him. I mean, they might have to play with a false nine, but when you think about the quality players that they have in Savinho, Doku, Grealish, Foden, Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, Oscar Bob, James McAtee, they still got so many quality players. I just think for me that losing Alvarez, if Haaland is going to get injured, which he probably will Rodri miss some games? Probably. Is Kyle Walker is the same Chico that he was in terms of his pace and recovery that he used to be? I don't know. I think he's a bit more fallible than before. Is Edison going to leave? I think there are so many question marks. And can Man City go the fifth time in a row in terms of winning the Premier League? Yeah, of course they can, because they got Pep Guardiola as their manager. But I think the reason why they probably won't is just because I think mentally, surely they've won everything there is to win. They've done the treble already. They've done 4 times in a row the Premier League that no team has ever won. Surely they can go again. And that's my only thinking, that mentally, surely that must take so much out of you, especially with so many of the players out at the Euros as well, so coming back a bit later as well. I just think that mentally there's got to be a bit of a relaxation. So I think Manchester are going to come second, and I think Arsenal are going to come first this year, because Arsenal was so close. But I think what they need to do is they've already brought in Ricardo Calafiori, which was a good signing to reinforce that left-hand side of the defence, if that's going to be where he's going to play. They look like they're going to sign Mikel Merino in midfield as well. But losing Eddie Nketiah, which looks like he's likely to leave, and also Reece Nelson, Arsenal have to sign a forward. And for me, I really hope they sign a world-class forward, because if they do, then I think their side is complete to compete with Man City and win the Premier League. One criticism I've had of Arsenal, despite the fact that they played probably the best football in the league last year, was the fact that they didn't break the 90 points. If you're going to compete with Man City and you want to win the Premier League, you have to get 90 points, because Man City are a Chico. They are going to get there. If you look at the sides that they've won the Premier League, they've Centurion side, the one where they just beat Liverpool with 98 the second time they beat Liverpool with 93 or 94. And anytime Arsenal rise to the occasion, they have to break 90 points to win the Premier League off this Man City side. But I think this third season, the first time they competed with them, yes, it was, thank you for making the league exciting. No one else really competed with them. Last season, they were proper contenders. I think this season they will do something, and I hope it's in the league, because it's got to be boring at this point, and I just want someone else other than Man City just for it to spice it up a little bit, make it a bit more interesting. So Mikel Arteta, get your boys into it, because I think they have a great chance of doing it this year. So there you have it. There is my Premier League preseason predictions, my 1 to 20. Let me know in the comments below what do you agree with, and I'm certain that you will let me know what you disagree with as well. But we'll see. We'll come back to this at the end of the season, see how well we do. That might give myself a bit of a forfeit depending on how well or badly I did. But everyone, thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.